Welcome. My name is Cindy Currier. I'm the director of your Newbury Council on Aging. Thank you very much for coming. For those who can't join us this morning, in addition to this being broadcast live, the Town of Newbury IT department is also recording this. It will be available on local cable access channel 9, as well as the town's YouTube channel. So even if you want to rewatch it because you need to think about questions that were asked and you want to hear their answers again, plenty of opportunity for you to do so. So again, I'm Cindy, Director of the Council on Aging. Dave Rogers, editor of the Newburyport Daily News, will be our moderator today. I just wanted to introduce the candidates to you. 3 candidates for Select Board: J.R. Colby, William DeMayo, Leslie Matthews. 2 candidates for School Committee: Josephine Antico, Paul Mayette. 2 candidates who could not join us today, neither were available, are the candidates for the Fish Commissioner. That is the other contested race in town. That is Augustus Campitelli and Alexander Maxon. I just wanted to let you know that they're another contested race. Unfortunately, they couldn't make it. Couple of housekeeping items. Restrooms are across the hall. I'll ask everybody to silence their cell phones just out of courtesy for the candidates while they're speaking. And if you do need to take a call, if you could go out in the hallway. And I'm just going to turn it over to Dave.
Great. Well, thanks for all for coming. So today we're going to be learning more about the candidates for Select Board and Triton School Committee. I ask everyone to hold their applause till the end because I want to get as many questions in as possible. So the following format has been agreed upon by all the candidates. So each candidate will have a minute to introduce themselves, done in alphabetical order, and then 2 minutes each for closing remarks. After opening statements, I'll ask the first questions to the school committee candidates in alphabetical order, with each candidate getting 90 seconds to answer. I will then answer the second question to the second person in order, and so forth and so forth. We're going to split this into 2 halves, 30 minutes each. And so hopefully we'll get as many questions as possible. So folks will have, I'm sorry if I said this, they'll have 90 seconds to respond to each question. And if I deem, it's not going to be a debate, so I'm going to be, if I deem that it's like at my discretion, a candidate may get 30 seconds to respond if they're directly mentioned by name. So, and after a certain point, I'll start saying, okay, time for closing remarks, and go from there. So, everyone ready? Great, we're going to start with the school committee. Josephine, do you want to go first?
Yes, okay, fine. Thanks for coming, everybody, either by remote or in person. I want to tell you right now, you have me to thank for the sunshine. I spoke to the gods, so it's not raining today. So my name is Josephine Antico, and I'm a candidate for school committee in the town of Newbury. My husband and I have lived here for 16 years. I guess that makes me a newcomer. But significantly, I have spent my entire adult life in education, over 40 years. So, and I've been to many different schools. I have a website, and you could look up my credentials and experience at that point. That's on Newbury Chatter, Salisbury Talks, and Rowley Talks, if you want to look it up. And I left some cards on there, too. What's most important about me is that I'm a taxpayer. We are taxpayers, and we have a granddaughter at Pine Grove and a grandson soon to enter Whittier. So I have a personal and a vested interest in being a candidate. But probably most important is, okay, thank you.
Hi, Paul.
Well, good morning, everyone, and I'd like to thank Cindy and everyone at the Newbury Council on Aging for hosting this, and Dave for agreeing to moderate. My name is Paul Mayette. I'm looking to be reelected to the Triton School Committee. I'm sure that as we talk today, we'll talk about a lot of the issues that Triton's currently facing and the best way to tackle those. For now, let me just say that I'm putting myself forward as a candidate because I believe strongly in giving back to my community. And given the importance of preparing children to be happy and contributing members of society, I can't think of a more important place for me to take that time and dedicate that time than on the school committee. I'm confident that I have the experience necessary to understand the issues and to help us rise to meet them. And I hope I've shown that over the last 3 years. I'm eager to finish the work that we've begun with Triton, and I hope to ask for your support. Thank you.
All right, so we'll go with some questions. Josephine, you're first. And how much of a priority should the school committee give to non-core subjects such as art and music? And how would you protect those classes?
You know, I have personally observed all the classes and all the performances at the school and the music program, so I know how extremely important that is to students. Sometimes I know also that the auditorium has been given a new audio system, thank God, because I never could hear the performances before. However, the school committee has to make decisions on where they will stress their priorities. Academic outcomes are very important because those drive the values in your town. So somewhere in the middle there has to be everything's important. What level of importance is determined by the performance of the kids in the school.
Okay, Paul, same question to you.
Well, I think they're hugely important, not because of the fact that they are separate, but because of the fact that any number of studies you look at show that, particularly music, gives better academic outcomes. Students who are active in one thing will be having better academic outcomes in the other. And you see so many times students who are invested in a particular program, and that's what keeps them coming to school each day and keeps them happy in school each day. So that's another one of those reasons that that's there. The most important thing we can do is to continue to budget well. One of the most heartbreaking things that was proposed in this year's budget and came out was the money that would have gone to expanding the program, especially given that it's been taking a bit of a hit since COVID. But I think we've done a very good job of stabilizing our budget, and hopefully those are things that over the coming years we'll be able to, maybe not at the level we hoped for this year, but add them back in over time, so that the Triton Arts program can pick back up to where it used to be.
Well, we all know that schools are a big reason why folks move to a community, and considering the need and desire for a new high school, how would you sell Triton Public Schools to someone looking to move to Newbury? Paul, you start with that one. Like, what's awesome about Newbury schools? Why should people come here?
Well, I mean, Newbury schools, starting at NES, it's such a community builder, and that's something I've seen from day one when we knew very few people when we moved to town, and it was standing outside preschool morning drop-offs and pickups that we began to know people. And I think that's an important piece of what schools do is building that community. And I think that's been fantastic. I think that when I walk through Triton, I see a lot of that same community. My kids are not at the high school yet, but I see the pictures when you walk in of the plays, and I see the model of the house that somebody built in it must have been an architecture class. You can see a lot of the great stuff that's happening right when you walk in the door. From the shop right there on the left as you come in. I think that's the biggest piece to me is the community. We do need to fix the building, and I want it to be something that we can all take pride in. And so I guess that would be the other selling piece is that we have a plan for that, and we're moving forward with it.
Josephine?
Having the advantage to have been in the classes in the school, I think one of the things that I would sell is I have actually observed teachers teaching the subject. We have one teacher there who teaches coding. That's really significant to me because it's high level. So high level classes really determine, in many cases, the academic outcomes of your school. And that's what people look for when they move into a town. Why am I paying for what I'm paying? Does it compare to other towns in the same general area? So, of course, COVID has destroyed everything, but high level academic instruction at a level where high achievers can work is very important. Also, equally important, I know all the SPED teachers there. How can we bring the SPED teachers up to the grade that they need in order for them to contribute to society too? So many of it has to do with the whole balancing act. Where will we apportion our money, and where is it best spent? But I can tell you, having sat in most of those classes in that high school, they have great teachers, very good teachers. But also, in addition, we must strive within the school to offer high-level classes for those kids who are going to dominate, in the society.
All right. In recent years, there's been a nationwide push to have controversial books banned from public schools. particularly ones that discuss gender and sexual orientation. What are your thoughts on that issue? Should parents have more of a say of what materials are available at a school library and why? Josephine?
You know, this is so funny to me. I taught To Kill a Mockingbird for my whole life, and all of a sudden it's banned. So I think, you know what I think when it comes to banned books? The parents should read every book themselves. Read every book themselves, and don't have anybody else determine what your children look at before you look at it. And then you can have a discussion on what you think in the school. My personal opinion is banned books can be controversial, but parents must understand what those kids are reading. Don't let anybody else decide what your kids read if you don't read it yourself.
Well, I'm curious if you think about, what would your stance be if they wanted to?
My stance would be?
Yeah, what if a parent came to you and says, I want you to go to the schools, try to get this book banned? What would you do? I mean, would you?
Would I say to that particular parent?
Yeah, what would you say to them?
I think we'd sit down and talk particularly about that book and what they don't like about the book. And then I can offer my opinion, because I know I've read most of them.
Okay. All right. Paul, same question. Same follow-up question. I'm really trying to get specific. What would you say to a parent, too?
I think, as far as what I would say to a parent, there are always options in terms of if a book is assigned, if they want their student not to read it, but I don't think a parent making a decision for a broad school is necessarily a good idea. When we look at it right now, the average, you particularly mentioned gender identity, the average LGBTQ student is 4 times as likely as their non-LGBTQ peers to commit suicide. When we can put stories in front of children and that help other children see them as human, because it's not about their gender identity, it's about the way they're treated. We're not just talking about controversial stories, we're talking about keeping kids alive. We're talking about keeping them in the classroom and making them feel like part of that community, and that's important. If you're looking at what's in it for the non-LGBT community, students are going to leave here. They're going to go outside of our 3 towns, and they're going to need to be able to talk to people who are not like them. So if they don't feel like that book is necessarily about them, it's about people that they're going to interact with. And I want to see our Triton students be able to go out into a broader world and be part of that world as well.
Okay. This is a submitted question. What are the most important pursuits at this time for Triton, and how are you planning to address these?
Say it again to me.
I think, Paul, you go first on that one.
Okay. Yeah.
I think the overarching issue that we face right now is the condition of the middle school, high school campus. For several reasons. I think, obviously people look at it. There are the visible things that we see, the stains on the middle school gym wall, all of that type of stuff, the rust here and there, the broken concrete. But then there are also the systems that we don't see, the electrical systems, the roof, the things that make it harder to operate the school day to day for the teachers, the things that are constantly looming in terms of financial spending $10,000 here, $12,000 there to patch problems. And I think it's costing us students. I think there are students who are looking at that building and saying, I'm going to go elsewhere. And that is a huge problem for any district. It comes back down to financial. It comes back down to having enough students to run all of the classes we want to run. So first primary issue to me is that building. As far as what we're doing to face it, I'm sure if you've been following, you've seen that we submitted again for the 2nd consecutive year to the Massachusetts School Building Administration to partner with the state. They will, when you're accepted into that program, they pay 50% of the costs. We pay 50% of the costs. We'll find out in December. So I'm very hopeful that this year we'll be accepted into that. It begins a process. It's not going to be quick. But we've put the money aside to get the studies in there, to make that process go as smoothly as possible so we can hit the ground running if we are accepted this year.
Josephine?
When it comes to MSBA grant, I talk with the operations manager at the school almost on a weekly basis. His name is Chris Wallace. And and I agree with Paul, major renovations need to be done to that building, major. But he was so convinced that he was definitely going to get the grant.
Right.
And he didn't. The grant actually went to Springfield High School. Because of COVID, city schools got priority. So what do we do? How does it affect the students? I know how it affected them. I saw them every single day. It was terrible. It was terrible. And I also believe that we need some type of a grant to do it all at once. You don't see the HVA system, but the roof is leaking. The lavatories I would never use. So that is extremely important to a student, because if they have to take too long to go out of the classroom and not get back in, it's a danger to them, and they're losing their education. So I do believe that we'll try again to get the MSBA grant. I know we're getting it at Triton, and it would be a great, I've been through a school renovation, so I understand how it works out, and it's difficult. It will be difficult for the students. Everybody in that school has to be on the same page, understanding how renovations will affect the day-to-day operations of that school.
Josephine, so substance abuse, vaping, is still such a major problem in the schools, and I'm wondering how you would confront or deal with that issue.
Substance abuse problems have been around for a very long time. You know, I got a big grant on substance abuse problems. The school has counseling for substance abuse, but the most important thing is what's going on in that home and how the student's feeling about himself. Why are they involved in substance abuse? Not that you have it, but what does it say about how they're feeling about themselves? That's extremely important with substance abuse. But also, constant education in health. How is this affecting your body? What does it mean? And I also think that it's important that the school educates the adults about substance abuse and make them understand how it's affecting their children.
So that's what you would do? You would try to educate the adults? That's what you would do personally?
The children and the adults. Okay. And explain to them how it's affecting their children. Oftentimes people go to work every day. They don't really know what's going on with those kids. They don't see it. It's not that they don't care. They're busy. They're busy. But until it actually comes to fore with them, then they say, well, what am I going to do now?
Okay. Paul?
I agree that education is an important part of that, educating about the health effects, but it's got to go further than that. We've been doing that. We've seen that. Vaping has been a particularly difficult nut to crack because it's not like it was when we were all in high school and you'd have to sneak out to the parking lot and have a cigarette somewhere out there. I've been in a classroom where I was writing something on the board, you'd smell it, you turn around, and it was gone, just like that. It's tiny, it's small, it disappears. One of the things we've done in the building where I work that I would love to see come to Triton is detectors in the bathrooms. It goes off the second somebody's in there. I'm hearing stories about high school students that are going home to use the bathroom because they don't want to be around that. The more we can make it difficult, the more we can find the little things that are there that vaping has made easier and try to, we may always be playing catch up, but the more we can do those things to make them difficult, the better it's going to be. So that has to be partnered with the education as well.
I'm running out of questions. I have a couple more. Just going boom, boom, boom. Do you believe the current system for deciding how much money each participating community must contribute to the school budget is working, or would you tweak that anyway? Is there any thoughts about that at all, Josephine?
Do you mind repeating that to me, Dave?
I'm just curious, each community has to put in a certain amount of money for the budget. I'm wondering if the system is fair. Mm-hmm. So that's your question. That's the question. I mean,
each community has to give a certain amount of money to the school system?
Correct.
I think each community has to decide that they want to support the school system. They need the money. How important are their children to them? This is not a babysitting service. This is an educational service. Nobody sends their kid and expects the school to take care of everything. It has to be in conjunction with the parents. And if you believe that the school needs to be supported through the budget in order to help your student, then it's your responsibility as a parent then to support the budget.
Paul?
Fair is a tough word to say yes or no to because it's technically fair. It's based on the regional agreement. We've got a formula and a system that goes out there. But when you see wild swings from year to year, so particularly Rowley this year, because their student enrollment went up, their portion went up almost 9%.
Right.
If you're a taxpayer in Rowley right now, that's going to feel unfair. That's going to feel very difficult, and it's not clear whether that budget's going to pass. I'd like to see that changed. I'd like to see ways we've talked about whether it was over a rolling 5-year admission piece so that would even out those giant giant population swings that would make it a little bit easier for towns to budget. That might be one way that we could look at it. There are a few other things that could be tweaked in the regional agreement. The really difficult part is that all of those, there's a base formula that goes into these regional agreements. If we alter, that's what we currently use. If we alter it, any town can go back to the original base if they disagree with it in a given year. So the towns have to be willing to look at the fact that, okay, this is a good year for us, a bad year for somebody else, or a bad year for us, good year for somebody else, and understand that those things are going to even out over time and be willing to stick to a new formula if we can agree on one. And that's going to be the hardest part.
I have one more question, then we'll go to closing statements. So who did I start with? Was it your turn? No, I think it's your turn, Paul.
Okay.
So how do you feel about social media? Do you think it's good for disseminating information, public discourse? Do you think it's helping your job, making it harder? Go for that. Just tell me what you think.
I think used correctly, it can be a great resource. One of the things that I'm saddest about over this past year on Twitter is there was a wonderful community that I had built up around that. I was constantly getting information from across the state, school committee members out west, in Boston, anywhere you go, and I was learning something every day, used correctly. That's for me. In the high schools, I've seen any number of difficulties. It's like everything out there, from cars to airplanes to any new technology we get. When used responsibly and working correctly, it can be a boon, but there's always going to be a drawback, and it's a matter of mitigating those things. And in class, for the students, the mental health is the biggest thing that I worry about. We've seen student anxiety climbing even well prior to the pandemic. Student mental health was a huge issue, and it's only gotten worse. And I do think social media plays a role there. Very difficult to control on a local level. It's a societal issue that we can do the best we can with in schools, but we're up against some pretty big forces on that one.
Josephine?
When it comes to social media, I don't think the parents realize how much it's affecting their particular students, because, honestly speaking, kids don't tell their parents. But I've spoken with them personally on so many times on social media. For my own grandchild, my daughter restricts the social media. Parents have to be aware of what their kids are listening to, how they're being bullied, and all the attendant problems that you have with social media. I personally believe that social media can be a wonderful tool, but it doesn't belong in the classroom. And that's where I see it often. The classroom should be for instruction, not social media. And the kids get on their phones, and that's what they're doing. I am very much aware of that and very much frightened by it, because they're being exposed to things that they don't need to be exposed to. What we need going on there is not the social media. What we need is the teacher and the Socratic method talking to the students.
Okay, closing statements. I think, Paul, you get to go first.
Okay. Well, thank you. As I alluded to before, in the spring of 2012, my wife and I walked into NES for the first time for an informational meeting about preschool. Sat in those tiny little plastic chairs in a room full of strangers and listened to the teachers and the administrators and wondered what it was going to mean to entrust our kids to these people in front of us. Now, 11 years later, those strangers are often good friends. Their kids have been constant fixtures in our backyard and at birthday parties, and the teachers have been formative figures in our children's lives. That's what schools do. At their best, they don't just educate, but they bind our communities together. And that's my vision for Triton. It's why I'm running. I want to play a role in helping develop a school district that we can take pride in. I want to see our kids learning and coming home happy every day after school. It's a simple statement. It's a complicated vision. It involves supporting our educators so that they have what they need. It means working with our member communities to make important decisions and understand their financial situations. It's going to involve an important decision about our middle school, high school campus so that we can have a building that everybody feels safe and comfortable in. And it means navigating a profession that is constantly evolving. I'm running because I feel like I have something to contribute to all of this. As a member of the Newbury Finance Committee, I learned the ins and outs of municipal finance and develop relationships that are going to help us as we move forward with a building project. As a career educator, I was 21 years in the classroom. This is my first as an administrator. I'm constantly working to understand the latest technologies, pedagogical practices, social issues. But the most important thing that I think I bring to the table is that I don't walk into a meeting with my mind made up. I know the importance of listening to others, learning from others. I listen to my fellow committee members, to the Triton administration, members of the community. I do the research, and then I make a decision. I'll go to bat for causes I believe in, but I can point to many times when I've changed my mind because of that. It's what I've done for the past 3 years, and I hope you'll give me the opportunity to do it for 3 more.
All right, Josephine, you're up.
I want to talk about volunteers. So why am I doing this? My husband is a volunteer for human resources. I've never seen anybody devote so much time to anything. In essence, we are all volunteers. Volunteers are the lifeblood of a small town, especially a town like Newbury. We need volunteers. So that's the reason that I began this quest. But unique to me is that I'm retired. I can be a full-time volunteer. I can give all my time to the programs at the school committee level, and there is much I need to learn. But I'm also a lifelong learner. I've done my entire life in education, and probably the most important thing for me is that I've been with those kids every day. Every policy has a name. Every program has a face. When you know someone personally, it's an entirely different feeling than being apart from them. And I know them personally, and I feel for them personally. It is my responsibility as an educator, as a grandmother, as a mother, to give the best that I can to those students, because they deserve the best from me, and I owe it to them. And that's why I want to do this.
How about a round of applause? All right, we're going to move over to the select board. The candidates have already been introduced, so I'm just going to start with opening statements, and we're going to do it alphabetically. So, JR, you want to go first?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name's J.R. Colby. I'm 42 years old. I'm the owner and operator of Colby Farm. I'm a lifetime resident and a product of the Triton school system. I'm an independent with no party affiliation. I voted both ways in my lifetime. I was the best candidate for the issues at hand at that time. I'm the current vice chair and previous multi-term chairman of the Board of Selectmen. I've served on the municipal building committee for the police station. We delivered that project on time and under budget during COVID. I'm very proud of that. I'm one of the only 2 current selectmen from Old Town, and I'm the only person at this table for the select board from Old Town. I remain objective and make fact-based decisions that are best for the town as a whole. I always try to be a team builder, using positive reinforcement when our teams perform. And I try to get the most out of our town staff because I've earned their respect instead of belittling them and demanding it. And thank you, Mr. Moderator, for this forum, and I thank everyone for coming. I had to respond to a little situation at work this morning, so I was at the last moment.
You made it, though. That's
I
good.
appreciate everyone.
Do you go by Bill or William? I don't know. I'm sorry.
I go by Bill.
So, Bill, you're up.
Thank you, thank you. As you said, my name is Bill DeMayo. Geraldine and I have been living in Newbury for 45 years. This is our home. Our burial plots are in Newbury. This is where we'll be forever. We love it here. Our 4 children all graduated through the Newbury system and the Triton High School as well. They all went on to have graduate degrees, and our 4th child was a special ed student, and he's done remarkably well from what he got at Triton, and I thank everybody for that. I attended Boston University. I also got a graduate and undergraduate and graduate degrees there. I served in Vietnam in the Army. I was awarded the Bronze Star for my service there. I worked at GE for 39 years, where I was a manager with a staff of about 400 people altogether, and I learned to be inclusive, to communicate clearly and concisely, and to make decisions based on facts and data. I spend my time today advocating for veterans, the Council on Aging, and civic interests that benefit our town.
Okay, Bill. That's it. I'm sorry. Leslie?
Good morning, everybody. Leslie Matthews. I live in Byfield on 111 Main Street. I've been here for about 25 years. I have been a sitting member on the planning board for 4 years, and I have been an attending member for the select board for 6 years. I am also the liaison for the planning board for the select board. So I make a report, every meeting that I go to, I make a report back to the planning board on what I've learned from that particular meeting. The reason why I want to do this is I would like to involve myself into the community to bring people closer together, to make them understand, to be a good listener, and to see the future of our community grow in a steady, moderate manner, and not just jump into things. We are in the process of town hall, and I am not opposed to a town hall. I just have some different theories on the size, the location. But as far as, I think we're really in, thank you.
Well, Leslie, you stole my thunder, okay? And I know you're shocked, but I'm gonna talk about town hall, okay? So JR, how do you feel about a town hall? Do you think we should build a new one or no?
I think that Morgan Ave is the most cost-effective place to put town hall. And I also think it's really important for our town. That's our cultural center. Is it the geographical center of Newbury at this time? No, but it's our cultural center. Traditionally, through all our lives, we've known it as that. We own the site. We have water and sewer stubs ready to hook to at the site. We have a building that is only about 15 feet wider on either side than the building that's currently there. The notions that it's a giant building that are gonna dwarf the site are false. I strongly am a proponent of that solution. Could we do it somewhere else? Could we do a different building? Yes. We're gonna spend more, to the tune of a couple $1,000,000 plus more than this plan would take us. I strongly feel like it's the right place, and is it the right time? Right now, with the way the world is, people don't necessarily feel like it may be the right time for anything. But when I look down the road, I look at a possible rebuild or renovation at Triton, depending on the data they come back with. I look at what Woody is trying to do. Triton, according to Brian Forget, probably 6 or 7 years off before there's a shovel in the ground there. The time to slot this in is now. We can pay the principal. We have we have millions of dollars saved ready to go towards this, and when we're in the process of paying it down, we can pay the principal down, just like we do on our homes. And I think we can really grind this thing down low by the time Triton even becomes a reality. So that's why the timing is now.
Bill, your turn.
I strongly believe that we need a solution for town hall, and I think that what was proposed at the annual town meeting made a lot of sense to me on a personal basis. I think the citizens of this town have shown at annual town meetings a willingness to put money aside to cushion the cost of a town hall, of a new building. When I look at it, in fact, the impact on me, I live in a moderate house, would be about $120 a year, which is $2.31 a week, which is a cup of coffee a week for me, okay? I spend a lot of time here. This is not the center of town at Kent Way. A lot of people have made that point. 25 High Road is. I think that a lot of thought process has gone into the solution proposed by the Municipal Building Committee. There were some skilled people there. They also worked on the police station as well. One can argue about the size, one can argue about square footage, one can argue about many other things, but I've heard no other opposing proposals that make sense.
Okay. Leslie?
As far as the town hall is concerned, I've already stated that I'm not opposed. I think that we can do a better job on it. I'm not opposed to the location as well, but I think there are other locations that are still suitable for that reason. For the people in town to invest this money right now, and even though Triton might be 5 or 6 years down the road, those kids that are coming behind, that is going to even become more difficult for them to go to school as the building gets in more disrepair. So it's kind of a conundrum of sorts to say town hall is more important than kids' education. I would just like to see a little bit more talk and a little bit more involvement from the people in town to state what their reasons and recommendations might be, what they want for town hall.
All right, Bill, what were your thoughts when it was announced that Larkin Road would once again connect to Georgetown? How did you feel for the residents who wanted it to remain like they're a dead-end street for them?
Honestly, there was an interesting phenomenon that I thought about. I believe the residents touted the fact that they had a petition with 300 people who endorsed what they were trying to do at Larkin Road. Unfortunately, 300 people didn't show up at the annual town meeting to vote in favor of what happened at Larkin Road. I was always a proponent of collecting data before the road was opened up and after to see what the impact was on the road in terms of vehicular traffic. That didn't happen. I believe it was planned to happen. I'd like to see the data. I am a data person. I like to get data and understand the facts before I make decisions. I feel for the people, their thoughts. I hate to see them standing at the end of the road with their kids in the morning waiting for the school bus, but there is no room for a school bus to turn around on that road. I think there could be something that could change there. It's opened up, the bus could be rerouted through there possibly, and that might help them out a little bit. It is a very narrow road. I appreciate that. I live on Orchard Street, which is also pretty narrow as well. So I understand, I have compassion for what they were looking for, but I think that the people spoke at the annual town meeting, and the outcome is what the people wanted.
Leslie?
Having lived in Newbury for 25 years, prior to that, we lived in Georgetown, and that bridge was open. The road on the Georgetown side is also small. I took a ride down Larkin Road this morning myself, and it is extremely narrow. So I think what a lot of people are worried about too is the way the cars go up and down the road. However, I was the only person on the road this morning. And it is a good job that they did down at the culvert. The water was probably about 6 inches, just about lapping on the road. But I think the main objective for the people is it'll become a throughway and a pass-through. And people are just worried about their pets and their children as far as they've been used to playing in the road and things of that nature. And it's all for safety reasons.
JR?
I believe our roads are a network, and the network needs to remain open. I also closely evaluated the width and length and situation on Larkin Road. I've lived here my whole life. I traveled it before it was closed. I've traveled it many times since it's been opened. I've encountered people walking on the road. They don't even look up at my vehicle. That leads me to believe that maybe the idea of all this danger isn't true. I live on Plummer's Lane. It's a smaller and even windier road that doesn't particularly lead anywhere. A low street and Plummer's Lane, they meet. My road could easily be closed, but I look at it as a part of the network. You know, do people go zipping by fast sometimes? Yes. Sometimes I get up and stand to look out my window to see if they even made the corner. But it's public property. Everyone in this room paid to plow my road, salt my road, repave it. You should be able to use it. Dog walkers should be able to use it. Larkin Road, 3 days ago, I hauled a piece of farm equipment up Larkin Road. That saved me 2 miles, and that would have been 2 miles of people stuck behind me in my tractor, crawling along. Well, they're all trying to get somewhere, but now that that road's open, I could provide them relief by turning off and taking a straight route. And really, the Middle Street Bridge, another community between Newburyport and West Newbury, just as vital to farmers. I'm going way out and around, and all these unhappy people are stuck behind me. If that bridge opened again, I could stay out all the way. So I think the roads are important, and I think they need to stay open.
So Leslie, you're up first on this one. There are some in town that believe the current state of local politics is toxic, with far more finger-pointing and mudslinging than listening and cooperation. Do you agree with that? And if so, what would you do to change that?
I do agree with it. I do agree. And it's not from just one side, it's from coming in all directions. What I want to do with something like that is I want people to be able to, and I'll listen. I don't want to be an arguer. I don't want to put up with confrontation. I want people to be able to get up and to be comfortable with speaking to one another in a civil conversation, asking questions and not interrupting conversations and listening to what the other party has to say. We don't have to agree with each other, but we should be civil and respectful to each other. That's pretty much all I have to say on it.
JR?
I don't believe it has been toxic. I think social media has tainted things a lot. Nothing on social media needs to be factual. I have worked with a couple board members that one gone, one on the way out, that have weaponized their spouses or significant others as a double agent on social media. I don't partake in any of that. I believe in the board does its work here. No one takes pot shots outside. No one's moving in a direction that the board doesn't necessarily want to move and making decisions and making promises outside of this board, making decisions as a whole. Is it toxic? Yes. I find it tough to be an independent in today's world. It seems like you're supposed to be on one side or another. And if you're in the middle, maybe some of each side considers you the enemy because you won't come over completely. These are all things, the vast majority of my experiences with fellow select board members have been positive. One word of warning to everyone, anyone who says they're gonna come into this business and wave a magic wand and make everyone get along, good luck.
Yeah.
But respectfully disagreeing, supporting each other in disagreement, not attacking each other outside of this forum through strange, means, all important. But I think social media has really complicated everything to do with all levels of government at this point.
And Bill?
I think it's tainted at times. To use an expression you said, I think there are a lot of squeaking wheels in Newbury, and squeaking wheels get attention. I think you wrote about that in the paper. I mean, I've studied select board meetings. I've attended most of the select board meetings. There are about 20 to 24 select board meetings a year. You'd be amazed at the few number of people, citizens that attend those meetings. You'd be amazed at how many people stand at that microphone and talk to the select board and communicate with them. But you'll hear the squeaking wheels will tell you they don't listen to us. It's not a question of listening. It's not accepting or liking the answer that they get, my opinion, okay? Social media has a lot to do with it. I'm not an advocate of social media. There are some strange situations that go on in town. People advocate for things and sometimes they're not factual. I don't like that at all. I'm sure social media has me tagged as a yes man, okay, and a puppet, which I am not. I'm not associated with any political group, any action group here at all. I'm a puppet for no one. I'm also a registered independent for my whole voting life, which is pretty long right now. But I think that these people, the leadership in town, does the best they can. Are they perfect? Not exactly, but no one is really perfect. They try their best.
Cool. So let's keep on going about social media. I think that's a great, and I know it's the same question I asked the school committee, but JR, your thoughts about social media? Is it helping Newbury? Is it hurting Newbury? I'm not talking about like...
Currently, the forums people seem to be tuning into, my answer would be no, because it is not a free and fair forum. People get blocked. Chairs of boards get blocked. Citizens with differing opinions get blocked. This is going on. I know people that this is happening to. If you're not adding to the message of the echo chamber, you get blocked. So Newbury needs to find a fair forum. I always felt that it was the newspaper, because on social media, there's no accountability. There's no accountability. You can post something at night, get up in the morning, and take it down. It's like it never happened. But people still saw it. They might believe it. There's no correction. There's no acknowledgement that it happened. At least in the paper, I don't agree with every piece that you publish, but everyone seems to get a chance. And if something's wrong and someone contacts the paper, a correction is filed and it's in print that says so. Yes. This does not go on social media. In this town, if they want a forum outside of traditional journalism where I feel it belongs, we need to find a way to make sure it's fair and impartial and not just an echo chamber, because like I said, people flop down on the couch at night and they look at Facebook. People are getting blocked. You're getting filtered messages. Not everyone is allowed to speak, especially if they disagree. And, I mean, that can be funny, or if it's your side, maybe you like it. But it doesn't help the progress of the town or the productivity of the town. It's really unfortunate. It's given people a soapbox that, in a lot of cases, in the old days, they would never have attained.
Bill?
I agree with everything JR said. I mean, I think that social media is sometimes used for things that really aren't democratic. When social media suggests to people that they should use bullet train voting for this election, it angers me. If you don't know what that means, you can look up on someone's personal website. It's a good definition of it. You vote for their preferred candidate, and don't vote for JR or don't vote for me. Okay, that distances that candidate from us. Okay, when ex-select people endorse voting for someone by bullet voting, it sends a message, and it sends the wrong message. And that's what I don't like about Facebook at times. I am blocked from accounts, okay? People here say they want to bring democracy back to Newbury. I know of no democracy that tells people not to vote. Voting is your right. There's two votes for select person in this election. If you care to throw away one of them, that's at your discretion. I think it's more ethical to cast your 2 votes in a democratic way. That's how you should elect your leadership.
Leslie?
I am a proponent for social media. I think it has widened the focus of the world. You have to be a responsible person on social media, however. And if you disagree with something and you're not buying into it, then you just move on to what you agree on. I don't like the name calling. I don't like there are messages that have to be sent. I'll bring up the bullet vote because that's being a write-in. It's a tool that can be used. It's not against the law. It's not undemocratic. The Constitution allows people to do this, to vote this way if they wish. We are a democracy. We are given the opportunity to make up our own minds. Social media lets the word get out faster than any other way. And we can wait for the newspaper to come out, but we have social media 24 hours. Thank you.
Sure. I think we have time for one more question, then we'll do closing statements. I assume I'm gonna throw a softball at you guys. After all that,
Thanks.
I think it's Leslie. Leslie, what's the biggest issue facing Newbury today?
Well, there's a lot of issues that are facing Newbury today.
Go for
But
it.
the biggest one?
Yeah.
The biggest one is the understanding of the importance of the town hall is very important, and the municipality where it works is very important. The biggest issue is keeping our taxes, and that goes along with the taxes, keeping everything in check so people can still afford to stay in this community. I've heard a lot of people say that that it's getting to be too much for them, and that they don't feel that they will be able to remain in town much longer if these types of items are put on their plate on a weekly, daily basis.
Bill, biggest issue facing Newbury?
I think Erica spoke about it at the annual town meeting. It's too much of a we, not we mentality, it's me mentality. Okay, I think we need to collectively come together as a town, not just 3 triunes, as a town, the town of Newbury. The citizens should come together and get behind something. I think in conjunction with that, I think that the town leadership needs to try to do a better job in marketing activities that they want to do and communicating with the people as they try to do that. Sometimes we do, sometimes we need to make improvements because we're not all perfect. So, I mean, we obviously have different ideas, and it's okay to disagree, but at some point in time, we are the town of Newbury, and let's be us, let's be we rather than me.
JR?
Some of the biggest issues facing the town, one, like I touched on, fighting the stream of misinformation while being blocked. Also, convincing people that financially it's time to do something when outside issues in the world make it seem more difficult or not a good time. Also, the obvious, given the town hall need and the urgency of the time frame. Triton's looming. I'm waiting on their space needs assessment and their program study to determine if that will warrant, if the building's big enough and it has good bones, maybe a renovation will do, if their program will fit into the building. If it won't, then we'll be facing a tear down. And the other thing, the temptation to deviate from our financial practices. Our financial practices are what has put the town in the spot where we're in. We have the lowest taxes in the county. We have some money saved. Is it tempting to go into that pot and take it and pay things, or use that money to pay recurring expenses? It's tempting, but it'll lower our credit rating in the eyes of auditors, and it'll lead us right back to the Stone Ages. So everyone, we really, no matter what the future board is here, if everyone adheres to the financial policies established by the town at this time, things should be okay.
All right, so some closing statements. Leslie, do you want to go first?
Sure. Thank you all for coming today. I really appreciate it. Again, thank you, Cindy. Thank you, Dave. And thank you to everybody sitting at the table. My closing statement is, I have a fire in my belly right now to be able to sit and help and work for the future of this town where I live and I love. My kids didn't go to the school system here because we came in from a different community and they were already enrolled into another system. But they have come to learn and love this community as well, and they always thought that they would leave and go elsewhere. And they tried, but they all seem to be coming back again because they know the value of what we have here as far as history and schools and the different kinds of culture. There is a lot of neighborly love in the community, even with the diverseness. But I think when it all comes together, that I would like to really see a stronger community as a group, and I would like to work hard to do that, and I would like to participate in everything that I can that will help to build that for this town. Thank you.
Bill?
In my time of retirement, I've dedicated myself to be an advocate for veterans. There are about 309 veterans in Newbury. When you drive on the roads and you see the Purple Hat Town sign, Newbury, it was my idea and my drive that got those signs erected and got us recognized for that. I volunteered to be a Newbury Veterans Grave Officer, and I am the chairperson of the Newbury Council on Aging, which is pretty important to me because if you look at the total population of our town, there are about 7,000 people here, and from age 45 and up is 4,000. So there are a lot of people who are approaching senior citizen age here, and the Council on Aging needs to serve them well, and we need to work on making sure the Council on Aging is around to take care of that. I think I have the tools in my toolbox to try to bring some things together, some communication skills. I'll attend meetings with a clear mind, always, an open mind. I do not jump to conclusions, and I pursue facts like crazy. I want to be factual. At GE, when we talked about solving problems on jet engine parts, the answers were either yes, no. There was no room for not being able to answer, abstaining. People's lives were at risk, and decisions were important. Leaders that make decisions are important. I know how to make decisions. I don't make harsh decisions, quick decisions. I'm inclusive of people, and I think that you won't be disappointed if I can join the select board.
JR?
All right, my closing statement. I am what you see. I'm not controlled by any Facebook groups or special interest groups or popular residents. I won't be bought, bullied, or pushed around or dictated to. I'm an 8-year veteran of this board. I've never once had a run-in with the Ethics Commission, never once. That is very unusual this day and age, and I am very proud of that. I keep my nose clean and I play by the rules. I won't weaponize any family members or my spouse on social media like we've seen in recent years. I appreciate when the Daily News makes note of this is a board member's spouse after opinion pieces. That doesn't happen on social media. I'm not going to partake in that. And I will always tune out the static, and I will always make the best decisions for the town as a whole. Everything I do comes back to one overarching thing. It's to preserve the rural character of the town while continuing to make this place somewhere that we can afford to live long into the future. I'm 42. I think about what's going to happen when I'm 80. I don't think about just 5 years out, just 15 years out, or 20 years out. God willing, I'm going to be here when I'm 80 years old, and I want to make sure we laid the road correctly on the way so it stays in good shape, and this town is as special then as it is now. And again, I'm sorry I came in at the last minute. Thank you, Mr. Moderator and the Daily News, for this forum. Thank you all for coming.
Well, that about wraps it up. I want to thank the Newbury Council on Aging for hosting this forum and asking me to do this. It's been my pleasure. I want to thank every candidate for being here and answering my questions. And I just want to make sure everyone heads to the polls on May 9th and make sure your voices are heard. And thank you very much for coming, and happy Monday. And that's it.